Paris has a large number of cities beyond the periphery where a lot of the population lives. And that's how Versailles got its start, and that's how the palace actually got its start, the Grand Palace of Louis XIV. And we start out with a look at the gardens. Louis XIV built this grand chateau based on an earlier cottage that was here, built by his father. It was a hunting cottage, a simple, smaller mansion, and then it grew and grew. These fabulous gardens all around it. We're looking down into the l'orangerie. Some of the kitchen vegetables were grown beyond here. Formal landscape gardens. When you visit the palace, you really should take a walk out in the gardens behind the palace before you go on inside. It's quite a splendid sight. All times of the spring, summer, and fall, there's different plantings the gardeners put in and take care of. There's active greenhouses to generate those blooms to keep the gardens looking pretty. Of course, you got to take lots of photographs when you're here. Pose with these statues. Here's Tracy with Neptune. You could see this much of the gardens in just an easy half-hour stroll. You just walk around one side of the palace and then around to the front of the other side. Here we are in front of the original marble courtyard and into the palace itself, up the grand staircase. And one of the first things that we're going to have a look at is the Royal Chapel, designed in part by Mozart, who was the chief overall architect of the Palace of Versailles. This was Louis XIV's private chapel. There's 2,000 rooms in the palace. Of course, we're not going to show you 2,000 rooms. The main visit usually goes into about 20 different rooms. As we are doing today, you go into the King's Chambers. There's a bust of Louis XIV by Bernini. There's a lot of other statues and paintings in the palace. However, everything was looted and plundered at the time of the Revolution. All of the furniture was taken out, all of the artworks were taken away, and what you see today has been restored. The ceiling paintings are original, and they've been nicely restored, and as many of the original oil paintings as possible were recovered and restored to their original places. Each room is a spectacle, but the most amazing room of all is the Hall of Mirrors, one of the greatest rooms on the planet. It's really an amazing space with the mirrors on one side and the windows on the other and the candelabras in the middle, with this beautiful Baroque decoration, painted ceilings, beautiful sculptures all along its length. Then we continue on into the Queen's Chambers. This was the formal bedroom. The last queen who lived here was Marie Antoinette, but she lost her head. She is the wife of Louis XVI, of course, and they fell to the guillotine at the time of the French Revolution. So we learned some history and enjoyed those dazzling visuals as we get back on our bus and head back to Paris.
You like it? Yeah. Really? Everything? All the... You can understand why we have a revolution now, when they discovered that, of course. So we're going back home.
Quickly back in town now, passing the Hôtel de Ville, that's the City Hall of Paris. We are taking a walk into the Marais district with Patricia. And along the way, we stop into a beautiful Baroque church. This is a rare example of the Italian Baroque style of architecture, the Church of Saint Paul Saint Louis. Unusual to see this style of church in Paris. And on to the Hôtel de Sully. This was a noble mansion. They're called hôtel, but that doesn't mean it was a hotel where people stayed. This is a private mansion for the aristocracy, and this one is beautifully preserved and is a museum today with public gardens, and you can exit right out the back of the gardens of Sully and into the Place des Vosges. This is one of the grand spaces in the heart of Paris, in the Marais. It's the oldest public square in Paris. And there are some nice restaurants and cafes on the square.
We have art, a lot of art galleries, museums. This is the Carnavalet Museum, totally dedicated to the history of Paris.
The Carnavalet is a lovely museum, but we're not stopping in this particular spot because we are on our way to the Picasso Museum, continuing the art tour of Europe with some students from Punahou School.